Recording is in progress. We'll start now. Welcome everyone to the webinar on budget analysis, which is held by. Sorry, I'm doing the admin also at the same time, letting people in. 1 second. Reshma, can I give you the admin so you can let people in, please?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so welcome everyone to the Green Building Council webinar on budget analysis, specifically to the construction sector. We wanted to do this for some time since the budget, when we never really had time, but here we are now. I want to welcome, first of all, Joya Bhandari, who's our chairperson. She's a lead accredited professional and edge expert. She's currently in charge nationally for the UN, what's called UN Page National Coordinator. She's also a committee member of the SMC Committee, Sustainable Exchange Mauritius Sustainability Index. Previously, she has been working with JICA, a Japanese international, International Cooperation Agency. And she was also the chair of the Mauritius Jurab at one time also. So, and Joya is our chairperson of our council. Welcome, Joya. Maybe if you can put your video, we can see you. Then we have Mr. Patel. He's the executive director of Khushiram Group since 1993. He's today representing Baseka. He has been a board member of the CIDB, Coastal Industry Development Board, and he's currently on the Committee for Green Certificates and Permit of MEPU, Ministry of Energy and Public Utilities. So we welcome also Mr. Khushiram, who is the Director of Mega Design, Chartered Civil and Structural Engineer with a long track record of over 30 years, which he's gained in the UK, Mauritius and Africa, with competence project management, feasibility studies and structural design and engineering, steel and masonry bridges with infrastructure work and also building work. Welcome, Mr. Khushiram. We actually waiting for Ms. Rughooputh from the University of Mauritius. Hopefully she will appear, but we can start now. So what I'll do, I'll start with a little summary of the budget. Just give me a second, let me just find this.
Tony, if I may, there's someone who signed in with the name Reshma. Mrs. Rughooputh, would that be you?
Yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Wow. Welcome. Welcome, Ms. Rughooputh. Welcome. Ms. Rughooputh is a senior lecturer. You have your video. We can see you. She's a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Engineering. Hi. At the University of Mauritius. Welcome. Sorry, we were actually looking for you, and you can thanks for registering now. Hi, welcome.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. We'll have a few moments to have, to brief about this topic, and it's been wonderful to be here this afternoon. Thank you.
Great to have you here. I'm just opening up quickly and share my screen. Yeah. The joy of technology. It's giving me some issues now. 1 second, huh? Oh, here we go. Perfect. So our job objective today is to look at the budget, a little bit of what's been budgeted in the measures. We're getting to get some insights from our panelists, some insights. We're looking at the opportunities and challenges also. Then we're going to look at in terms of implementation and what does that mean for construction sector. And afterwards, we're going to look at what is actually done also elsewhere. Maybe we can inspire ourselves from it or and compare also what we're doing here. And maybe for next year, we can be looking at some of those initiatives. So I'm going to share my screen now. Yeah. Everyone's fine. You can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, good.
Great. So our panel members, I will introduce you. Joya, Bhandari, Reshma, Rughooputh, Mr. Khushiram, Mr. Patel. So I think we got a great little panel to do a bit of roundtable.
Yep.
So the review of budget measures, it's basically like in all countries now, it's for economic recovery program. It's a lot of infrastructural work and also a focus on education and health infrastructure and a lot of sewage work also. So there's been a push also for SMEs. There's been some funds there for SMEs. SME graduate, etc. We're going to see that in the next slide. There's been some figures also, but I've seen the green energy industry. I'm not sure if that's totally correct. It's produced 60% of our country's energy from green sources by 2030. And I think by that they also mean the biomass. There's a national biomass framework that's been put into place. There's going to be subsidies on the buses. I think for electrical vehicles also, we've seen the roadmap that's already been put in the budget. For tourism, which is the most affected by COVID, there's been quite some support there from government to get some like better branding also of Mauritius, and also to support the hotel industry, which is our tourism industry, which is a bit of in limbo at the moment with our situation. So for agriculture also, there's some guaranteed price mechanism. There's the backyard gardening loan scheme, which is for food security. I think it's 25,000 rupees per family. There's a special support scheme. There's also the agro-processing zone also that now is in Bhutan. And there's also a push for livestock. Building resident industrial base with different trade agreements, export development program, the e-export directory, and the sustainability transition program. It's 2.2 billion for the National Environment Fund. And this is give us quite a bit of budget to be able to do good things in environment. There's also some budget for a cleaning campaign that's been ongoing for a couple of years now. Same for the cleaning and embellishment program. There's a note for the promotion of circular economy, and there's a solid waste management program also. So I spoke about SME, about the graduate scheme that's been back since COVID. It was paused, now it's back again. And there's lots of facilities also for SMEs to face COVID challenges and to thrive. So looking at the budget for the construction sector, what we've extracted, the big one is the social housing, 12,000 social housing units, and another construction of additional 2025 with 12 billion rupees. There's the dam of Rivière des Anguilles, the drain projects, general infrastructure, like we've seen also the metro that's continuing, and there are other infrastructural projects. There's a forensic science lab, and there's also a college for the construction of a college, of civil service college at Réduit. So I think that's a little bit of a summary, just to paint a bit of a picture before we go into the discussions. So I'll stop the share. Maybe the first question, let's speak to any of you who wants to maybe give your key takeaways from this budget, your appreciation of it. Any comments from the panelists? Mr. Khushiram? We can't hear you properly, or is it just me?
No, we can't hear.
Yeah, you're not on mute, that's strange.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
In fact, we can actually, from our point of view, from an engineer point of view, I can briefly go through what I think of the measures which have been presented. So just to be short on that one, I think obviously the intention behind the present budget provisions are quite clear. As the government, as a facilitator, is primarily preparing the road to recovery for our country, which unfortunately has been mutilated by the pandemic. So I think obviously COVID-19 has taken its toll on the whole world. And I think we should not assume that it is business as usual. So I think all the provisions in the budget, I think is just forwarding a message to everybody involved that investment, especially investment in the housing sector and infrastructure, is the boosting injection for warming up the sleeping contributors to the construction industry. And they are expecting that the private sector follows up with investment on their part and giving a right message to all the investors as well, local and foreign, that we can catch up the lost time and we can proceed in the right direction. Unfortunately, in fact, the day after tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, the first tourists are arriving on the island. So I think that's the right time to give them the right message as well. So I think at the same time, we should not forget that there's a huge price increase everywhere, and the government is actually taking right measures to curb that inflation and the hike in the rate of exchange. So I think re-establishing the trust of the operators and the stakeholders is the first.
Thank you. We lost you a little bit at the end there. Thanks for sharing.
Which I think it does include those measures.
Thanks. Sorry, you got cut off, and I think I interrupted you also. So yeah, it's the right signal from government injecting money in the housing and the infrastructural project, and hopefully that the private sector also will follow suit. And hopefully also we can curb inflation, and there's also the arrival of opening of the borders. Anyone else want to express their views? Reshma, yes.
Yes.
Yes, Reshma. Mr. Patel, we take you afterwards. Yeah.
So
Hi,
from me, yes,
you
hi.
You want to put your video? That's much when you're speaking.
So honestly, I feel that the budget makes good provision for a wide variety of projects to include the infrastructure. So coming to the water supply, the metro projects, the expansion of the road networks, and also there will be also some leisure parks provisions in it. So I see these very positive, and yes, with all of these expanding. However, with the constraint of COVID-19, and hopefully with the coming up of the policy, the vaccination requirements and all, so that should ease up and try to boost on this construction flourishing around. So for me, this is a very good budget to work on, to invest the money and try to see how these projects flourish for a certain period of time. And obviously, these projects will alleviate many of the national concerns and social concerns. Thank you. Now, that was brief from me. Thank you. Not hearing anyone.
So thank you, Reshma. We'll take Joya, if you don't mind, Mr. Patel. So ladies first, gentlemen.
Yes.
Yeah, carry on, Joya.
I'll just lower my hand. Yes, thank you, Tony, for the nice introduction. And I'm really happy to be here and welcome all the participants and the panel members. Thank you for being part of this. And my take on the budget is that it is very ambitious, and it is excellent to see that there's a lot of recovery to be done, and the government is focused on the recovery for the economy, which is wonderful. We also see the social aspect as well. And I think looking at it from a green perspective, there's a lot of opportunity, to look at maybe the green infrastructure side. The social housing has been mentioned, as well as the community development. So there's a lot of opportunity here to go green. There is, so I think this is a very good budget that where we can fit in, we can say, listen, building it in a greener way, and including, the community, including the social aspect, which has been mentioned, right there. It says securing sustainable and inclusive development, which is excellent. So there, it's really a path for green. So yes, thank you.
Thanks, Joya. Yeah, so an opportunity to like we said, build back better, and to have sustainability and inclusion also in there. Mr. Patel. Mr. Patel, the floor is yours.
Yeah, hi everyone again. Okay, my opinion in terms of budget, very interesting budget, positive, as well as ambitious budget also. The government will have to seriously think on the doability and achievement of this budget. It can be done, and the bureaucracy will have to be looked into. So my suggestion is, and my opinion is that whatever the projects have been announced in the budget should be pinned down so that they are executed ASAP. I mean, lots of elements which is going to equally boost up the economy. Well, construction is one of the pillars of any country in terms of cycling the funds, and by cycling the funds, it's a chain effect. The supply chain moves from the social point of view also, and so the important element would be for the government to pin down and move forward with the projects without any bureaucracy, and give the opportunity to the local consultants, deploy local consultants to prepare the documentations, and also equally give the opportunity to the local contractors, be it large or medium or small contractors. So definitely there's a room for everyone.
Yeah, so what I get from there is obviously the ripple effect of injecting money in the capital expenditure. And I've got a question regarding this in terms of maybe to you, Mr. Patel. So in terms of implementation of these projects. So I know that normally construction projects, big projects, etc., they take some time before they actually are put into motion, where actually people start earning money or going to site. Do you have an idea also what timeline we're looking at in terms of this project? Any of you actually who the tender process and what we're building first? When can we expect the first phase of the social housing project, for example? Or anyone who's got this information?
Well, I mean, the social housing projects, I understand, well, Mr. Khushiram can take it over from me. I understand they are still analyzing the consultancy submissions, if I'm not mistaken, and this will be a process on its own. Yes, it is a very ambitious project, but once the foundation has been properly done, social housing, I believe it should be shared with the local consultants and the local contractors. So there is a room. The latest would be Mr. Khushiram probably can update further in terms of where it has reached. But there is no firm decision taken as of now, in my opinion, in terms of pinning down the team of consultants.
So I mean, if I want to also look at this construction sector and looking at the current situation, with rupee also devaluating and devaluing and the prices of materials going up, I think Mr. Khushiram mentioned about the private sector needs to follow suit, or Mr. Rughooputh mentioned that also that we there's a signal from government, but then private sector follow suit. So I mean, what do you think of this situation where I think the ton of steel has gone from 27,000 rupees to like 45,000 rupees, etc. I mean, how would that play in the mix? Anyone who wants
Tony, your question, because you got disrupted. There is a network issue.
Yeah. No, I was talking about the challenge of rising prices, rising construction prices, and the construction sector. Yeah. So because this is also a big issue. We want the private sector to come in and also invest and to do projects, but prices have gone through the roof. What's your view on that? And then we'll speak to Mr. Khushiram.
Well, the present situation, there is no visibility, no doubt. So even from everyone's experience, not only the prices for the materials, but also the shipping prices are going haywire, the raw material prices are going haywire. So when there is a tender process, previously the vendors were willing to pin down the prices or maintain the prices for 90 days or 120 days. Presently, all the vendors, because there's no visibility, they are giving the prices as of date. So when you put in the bid today, you don't know what is going to be the consequence once the bid is awarded to anyone. Now, to resolve that, and as a win-win situation, the client should probably compensate the contractors for the increase in price, so long as there is a genuine increase in price in the major materials. That's a win-win situation. Otherwise, many contractors would face a real financial crisis. So the situation, the contract documents will have to be re-looked into that, rather than having a fixed price contract, it should be, the increase in prices should be compensated to anyone.
Yeah. I've seen there's two hands raised. Before we get to Mr. Khushiram, maybe Mr. Khushiram, you can maybe give your insights.
Just to, sorry about that. I think we've got some interference on there. Actually, with respect to the increase in prices, I can tell you one thing: government or public projects, they are definitely have a budget, and that budget is always set by whoever, the parastatal company or the public company who are actually launching that tender. However, it's always the consultant's responsibility to come back regarding these particular cost estimates, because they've developed the design, they've done the whole procedure of going through the detailing. Now, unfortunately, we have such a situation presently. We are working on a project whereby you have to actually find out exactly where the cost increases are coming from. And I think Harish has already mentioned it. I think do remember that locally we have our aggregates, we have our stones, our sand, That's about all we've got. Everything else is important. And the cement, obviously, do government. But to pin down actually presently, because the construction industry hasn't really started, in fact, going along its normal course. So we're just getting into, which is the budget has done actually, gives the impetus to the whole industry so that they can go back to the usual way of dealing with everything, with materials, with goods. Remember that contractors are made up of a very huge family. You have subcontractors, domestic contractors. Domestic contractors constitute a whole bunch of very important people to the main contractor. But do remember the material suppliers, the various other people connected with safety, etc., etc. That activity has to get to its usual trend. But unfortunately, for example, I'll give you an example. When we are working out the cost estimate update, you have to bear to account that the construction price indices have not been updated. We can't blame the statistical office because you need to get data to be able to update them. At the same time, the one we have available is actually the rate of exchange, which is there. But unfortunately, the crude prices, oil prices have shot the freight increase huge, and I think we should be prepared for that price increase. But unfortunately, the sooner we inform our client, which is the parastatal company which is launching the project, it's where do we stand? That unfortunately will lead to reduction in the scope of the works, etc., etc. But this, we should be prepared for that, and we should warn everybody, especially the operators, the suppliers, and the materials whoever in charge on this particular project. Okay.
Tony, you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah. So it's a matter of adapting to the current condition and the rising prices. Obviously, we'll see some projects, scope of work being reduced, etc. And hopefully, we won't see any projects being halted. We don't want to see that. Hopefully, that will be fine. Yes, Joya, you wanted to add something?
Yes, thank you. In fact, you know, I was just thinking about also in the budget, we talk about tourism, and Mr. Khushiram, you pointed out a very interesting thing is about the value chain. Because when we look at tourism and the problems that we are having because of the closure, there has been a lot of repercussions for other suppliers, other people that are involved in this tourist chain, you know, tourist sector. So it's the same thing for the construction sector. You're totally right that it's all, you know, it's a chain that will be affected. However, you know, I know this is a long shot, but the Green Building Council actually wants to stimulate and promote innovation, you know, in the building industry. And I think that is, okay, maybe it's not an immediate solution, but this is something in a long-term solution can be about looking at innovative products, innovative ways of constructing, nature-based solutions where you don't require a lot of, you know, cement, concrete, whatever else. You know, so we can maybe look at that. And also, I think, you know, it's very interesting. I was reading the Canadian plan, the Canada plan to the COVID recovery, and they don't talk about COVID-19 recovery. They're actually saying coming out of the COVID-19 recession, because this is all, you know, the signs of prices going up, you know, all of this. I think it's yes, it's because of the pandemic. It's definitely because of the pandemic. And, you know, we need to look at it on a longer term, look at what can be done in the future for future generations. I think, you know, green is one way. And of course, also looking at the private sector investment, as Tony mentioned, this is important to engage them and maybe have, you know, incentives so that they can boost this economy and boost their investment in these different areas. So yeah, that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Joya. Yeah, I think he's so right. Innovation is quite key. I think that's where innovation happens when we're actually trying to, you know, to face challenges, and that's where I think human beings are most innovative. when they're sort of in a survival mode. And I think it's time also that construction industry innovates, because we're still doing the same thing we've been doing for hundreds of years. And hopefully we'll see some new technologies, a new way of building, etc., which is a bit cheaper to compensate from all the rising prices. Reshma, you got your hand up, yeah?
Yes, yes, Tony. Well, I have 3 points on this. First point raised is that we have to encourage local consultants and contractors. For me, inclusion of trying to get grooming of people, local people towards the construction industry, whether be it site offices, whether be it in or like masons or anything to do with the construction work, welding, plumbing, anything. Like, we should have a clear plan to see how we are going to put in these people on board, so that we try to enhance the local contractors, the local constructions. That would start with the education of the younger ones. That is one point. Second point is to note very much that this circular economy on the use of construction materials is on, and we have private companies trying to get, replacement of virgin aggregates, for example, replacement of cement, and it's happening. It's happening. Actually, this is happening, but we need to reinforce this and try to give incentives to those promoters who is trying to boost up this circular economy aspect and green construction products. And third, as Joya had said, that we have many innovative ways of doing things, and to decrease consumption of energy in many ways. So we must try to encourage these promoters and include these in future budget plans. So that will be 3 things to think about. Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Reshma. So one is to match a little bit of the skill sets to the industry, and get the education there. Because also we do understand what we import a lot of labor who works in our contracting industry, construction industry. But anyway, they're here, we do send money home, but we actually spend also money here, which is a good thing for us. The second one is the circular economy promotion. And the third one is some incentives also for investment. We've looked at some challenges in terms of rising prices, and we also seen some opportunities in terms of green. Are there any other opportunities and challenges that you think regarding these new budget measures? Just raise your hand, any of the panelists who can maybe, yes, Joya?
Yes, I think that, thank you, Tony. I think that, there is opportunity, and I really want to thank again the panel members today for being on this webinar, because this is one way to share insights, talk about different topics, understand what are the solutions, because if we put heads together, we'll be able to share and be able to come up with solutions. Now, one thing is there that the government wants to look at the energy sector, and it's looking at increasing its renewable mix, which I think Tony said 60%. That's great. That's really great. One way could be to start in a simple way is to make homes more energy efficient, maybe have incentives to create energy efficient homes, because yes, it will be great if we can, increase our renewable mix, because that's where all the prices are increasing. It's the petrol prices have increased. So that's important. And then the other thing is we should not forget that we have actually signed the Paris Agreement in 2015, and we are supposed to abide by the SDGs. So this could be our plan, our road plan on how to achieve, all these goals. So that's one way. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so there's the opportunities of going green, etc. You know, I'm not sure how that's going to be sort of mix and match, because there's some environmental fund, there are social housing projects, and I've seen myself attend the documents. We've been talking about environmental architect, etc. For consultants, but I'm not sure also how much of a green we'll be putting in there. And hopefully that could be looked at properly for, you know, maybe the time when the consultants get appointed, but there should be, you know, like more discussion about this, you know, energy efficiency, etc. There, because this is definitely a big opportunity there. And anyone who wants to add on the challenges?
If I may add on that, I mean, the first meeting which took place in the Ministry of Environment with regards to the green permit, at that time I suggested it's doable. Anything is doable. You there, Tony? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. We're hearing you. Sorry.
And it's everything is doable. Technologies are available, but it should become a norm. The forefront should be the government, which should show this initiative. The public sector should show this initiative. I mean, you have buildings in Portlaoise which are 40, 45 years, which have never been regenerated, never been looked into. My suggestion is the government should demonstrate to the private sector a prototype building where things can be done. You know, it's the public sector should set an example to the private sector. Private sector are doing. I mean, today you have some developments happening. They are traveling towards LEED certification. Okay, LEED certification is expensive, but the way forward of green permit is a way forward, no doubt. It's a good thought which has been cropped up. But the public sector, the government should give an example to the private sector. At least take 2 projects and do as a prototype and show to the private sector, guys, it's doable. So it has to be pinned down. It has to be pinned down. Decision making, pinned down, things will move. Otherwise, we'll all be meeting over here and move.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, my internet is a bit unstable. It's like sort of freezing a little bit. But yeah, it is true that public sector needs to lead the way, and hopefully that's going to be the case. I know I've heard some talk about it also from the Ministry of Environment mainly. I didn't speak to MPI, but we are actually looking at greening some of those public buildings. We'll take Mr. Khushiram, and then we'll take Joya.
Sorry, I just add on to what Harish was mentioning. I think obviously it starts on public projects with the inclusion in the brief itself by the client. I think you have all seen that there's an emphasis on rainwater harvesting, on energy saving measures for lighting, on in fact hybrid ventilation, and on solar PV panel use. I think that repeats itself for quite a while. But unfortunately, at the time of its implementation, it gets cast aside most of the time due to its initial huge financial outlay. So I think Harish is absolutely right. I think the message should be, in fact, more deeper and profound from the government. And I think the only way to do that is to, in fact, request for it clearly in the scope of the works itself, and ask for an end product. Now, to carry on in that respect, actually, it's that the government actually in this budget wanted to clear a few mistakes we made in the past, which is with respect to the land drainage which is we are in a mess because of bad planning by the local government. So I think that has to be sorted out. And at the same time, there is a shortcoming of social housing. But unfortunately, social housing and drains aren't the ideal projects for us to give a shock start to green construction industry. But at the same time, that was not the intention. The intention was for the private sector to follow up. But the message the government has given in its budget is that we want to go along the lines of the green construction industry. So I think that is clearly spelled out. But the government can follow up by including in their brief additional provisions for these particular measures. So I think that would be the kind of message that Harish was mentioning. And I think that should be, in fact, sorted out by the consultants dealing with the social housing, with ourselves. We are dealing actually with the drainage. So I think, but I think Mrs. Rughooputh mentioned it, filler materials in lieu of cement could be one idea. But I think in any country, research and design always is spurred upon by the industry. However, in Mauritius, it's the reverse. Actually, it's the government that spurs on research and development. That is the wrong way around. It should be the industry that spurs it on. And I think the universities can open their doors and go along those areas where we should innovate and try to improve on the status that we are having present.
Thanks for your intervention. Yeah, it is true, but we see on building projects but some of these green initiatives at the end of the day, they just got sidelined or below the line items, like they call it. It's nice to have, and lots of time they don't see it. So that's why it's important that we are actually in the terms of a reference. I didn't see any of this really strongly, but hopefully it will be there in infrastructure, because as prices are rising also, now we have some extra things, and we might not be delivering all the houses just because we don't have any money, and maybe there's going to be some budget cut, etc. But one thing that we need to mention also is that not all of green initiatives are actually costly. Just positioning your building in a certain way doesn't cost any more money. But Joya, yes, you wanted to say something, and then we'll go to Reshma, and then also I want to give the floor also to the participants to either step in. And before we do that, I want to look at some examples in different countries that we can inspire ourselves from. Yeah, maybe Joya, you can comment, and maybe also if you have some ideas of what other countries are doing, and comparing what we're doing and other countries, what would be, give some of your insight there, that would be great also. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Tony. So first, I would like to say that, Mr. Patel and Mr. Khushiram, you're totally right. There is a lot to do by the public sector. There's a lot to do by the private sector. But what we see is, I don't know if Tony mentioned, but we have about 30 members that are part of the Green Building Council. And what we see is that there is a lot of movement. There's a lot of movement happening slowly, but it's there in the green building sector. There's quite a bit of movement happening there. So it's just, I think that the government and the private sector will meet. If we take an example, we look at in the budget, we're talking about the upgrading of the drainage because of the landslide, the flooding problem. But there are other ways to address that as well. So, for example, the nature-based solutions instead of those. And also we must also think about that, all these green, incentives and possible initiatives can actually create jobs. We can actually create jobs and increase the skills in the green sector. Maybe this is what we need to do more, is to do more capacity building. I'm going to go to the project that I'm working on right now with the UN, which is the PAGE program, which is the Partnership for Action on Green Economy. And a lot of capacity building has been done in that particular program, related to understanding green projects, knowing the technologies and so on. So totally, it's all a matter of putting a lot of things together to make it happen. But definitely it can happen. Also, I'd just like to say quickly, I read an article about, sustainable home, and a person that was living in that sustainable home I think it was a social housing project. And they just said one thing about that particular home that they were living in. It was just that they said that the quality of our life has actually increased. And, just that simple thing saying that, being sustainable, being cleaner, being more, there in this green, it made my quality of life a lot better. So it's possible. It's not that it's not possible. It's possible to do it. Let me go to the next question, Tony, that you mentioned about other countries. What are other countries doing? Like I mentioned, for Canada, they're very much into the green economy, energy efficient improvements, even zero emission vehicles, infrastructure for that, clean power, planting trees to fight climate change. So some great initiatives there. Of course, they're all focusing also on very much on the green jobs, the green skills, trying to bring that out more. For example, in the US now, they're talking about clean energy again. We're talking about a sustainable infrastructure, creating jobs, retrofitting buildings, which is excellent, providing rebates, cash rebates for low-cost financing to upgrade and electrify home appliances and install more efficient windows. So it's just very small measures, but that can actually make a change, slowly and in a bigger way in the future. And also building, housing that's more sustainable, starting with a few units. And then looking at their infrastructure, where they talk about making it resilient to floods, fires, and other, climate threats. So yeah, it's very, focused and elaborate on exactly what is going to be done. Yeah, this is what I've seen with these, at least the Canadian and the US,
Thanks, Joya. It's frozen on my side. I'm not sure it's same everywhere. Yeah, can you hear me? It's sort of frozen here.
Yes.
Thanks, Joya, for sharing. So yeah, the initiatives all around the world that we've been saying, it's very much related to green recovery. I think they noted that during the pandemic, there's been a 27% decline in terms of emissions. And then they realized that, they were worried that, do we need economic decline so our planet gets better? So that's why also there's been this sort of push to do a Building Back Better and greener recovery. But many countries, or more, not probably all the countries around the world are targeting. And hopefully, for us, it's nice also to take something from abroad and take things, but what actually does it mean for implementation in Mauritius? Maybe Reshma, you can give your comment from a previous question, and maybe also you can also provide some examples on your side, what you think could have been done better for the budget, or things we can learn from a different country, and then we go to the participants, and so they can actually also express themselves. Thank you.
Okay, hearing from panel members, thank you for the views. I would like to say that concerning government projects, I'm aware that in the scopes of works for road construction, we have provisions for the use of reclaimed asphalt pavement. So replacement of these virgin aggregates. So that is on a good note. And I also know that research and development with the private organizations are on to look into best options with regards to construction materials. Then this will naturally take some time to show some results, but it will definitely be there. Now, concerning one very good project that could be a showcase for Mauritius government project could be the social housing project, as mentioned by panel members. So there we have the ventilation, orientation, construction materials for road, the building. We also have the water harvesting, whether we can have some green roofs on top of these houses to ensure social, some social aspects with regards to that, and then some of putting more skills. Now, also one concern is the way these social housing blocks are being constructed. We are still with the traditional ways, or with beams and blocks, when we have other ways that we can have more economic ways, as we have also done research on this. So there are other ways of construction so that we can decrease on these costs of these building blocks. So eventually, with new ways will come the need to get more skills with regards to how all these new construction ways going to be implemented. So on this note, I would tend to say that yes, we can have very good projects to display so that we can learn and try to bring more of these new innovation. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, so I think on the Green Building Council side, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Lee Luen Len. I'm from the Green Building Council. What we've seen also in one of these sort of gathering where we had some discussions, the issue that we have also with new technologies, it's actually uptake by the industry. So like very typical example is just, like the block that doesn't use formwork with a U block or the corner block, etc. Even this, we can see that there's been, even it exists, it uses less material. Maybe it will be used now more because we need to import this marine ply, etc. from overseas. But there hasn't been a lot of uptake like they hope to have. This is where also there's one thing about research and innovation and getting things that works, or bringing it or importing it. But if there's another thing about people using it on their construction site. So I think this is something that we also need to be looking at in terms of challenge. Thanks for contribution. Yeah, Joya, before we go to the floor, because we've got 15 minutes for the discussion with the different participants. Yes, Joya?
Yes, actually, I just wanted to quickly say, talk about the project that Green Building Council has and new possibilities can be tested and demonstrated so that people can understand the technology and know what is behind it, whether it's easy, simple, not doable, doable. Now, the next thing was about the commercialization of different, green measures. So there's a loan for a green loan. I'm sure you all know of the AFD green loan, as well as the MRI commercialization of research and development, not just research and development, but more taking it forward and actually implementing it. So there are a few more incentives out there to help, to allow this uptake, as Tony mentioned, which is very important, of course. Thank you.
Thanks. So now we open the floor to different participants who are here today. If you want to say something or ask a question, please just raise your hand. If you want to talk about budget opportunities and challenges regarding implementation, the different effect in terms of construction sector, if you think it's a good, it's bad, etc. I know the first one is always the most difficult one. But to come back also, I think while people are deciding, when we look at drainage, there's also now a sustainable drainage system. I think there's also a mismatch between regulations and what is what people want to do. So normal drains or those big concrete drains, etc. But today, a lot of drainage system actually retain, through swales, retention pond, etc. So it's a bit different how they're doing with sustainable urban drainage. So I'm not sure. Hopefully, there's going to be some flexibility in the regulations regarding that. Yeah, Joya, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just quickly, I see in the chat somebody has put in a message by Huawei Y9 Prime 2019. I'm sorry, I'm reading the phone number, the phone make. But if that gentleman would like to come, or lady, like to come on and talk about the NSLD.
Yeah, are you talking about the National Land Development Strategy? Is that something like that? I couldn't see because the chat is so long, I can't see this. But maybe that person who's got the Huawei phone can take the, or your Reshma, if you can read the question or comment.
It's NSLD.
NSLD, I know NLDS. National Land Development Strategy. Is that what it means? Or
yes, we'll just have to wait for the gentleman.
Yeah, please go ahead. Huawei Y9. You can unmute and give your comment or question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's concerning the national new social living development, actually.
Okay, and, social living, yes, okay. Yeah. The social housing company, yes.
Just questioning the way the projects are being distributed, and that having a proper distribution would help the whole building industry in Mauritius, including consultants and contractors, to build up resilience and come up nicely out of this difficult situation we've been through. And I think we have the expertise, we have the know-how, and I don't see why. It's an enormous project, and I just don't see why it's not distributed I won't say evenly, but properly. That was my idea.
Yeah, that's thanks for sharing this. Indeed, it's quite a bit of a challenge because to do this type of project, you need to be a certain type of consultant or certain type of contractor. But hopefully we're going to see the ripple effect of what has been mentioned by our different panelists here. Yeah, even if it's what I understand what you're saying is you want to see more maybe like SMEs to be able to have some of the work rather than having a big contractor. But I think down the line, like Mr. Khushiram spoke about domestic subcontractors, etc. I think that's going to benefit also down the line. But I do understand that part of distribution, but I do understand also that they've separated these work packages in smaller packages, so it's actually distributed. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else who wants to ask questions or give a comment, or maybe some recommendation what you want to see? For me, I definitely want to see more subsidies and grants and fiscal incentives to actually push investment by government is great, but also in terms of a private sector. But we also just to get some of the incentive that we welcome at the moment. I suppose with everything, I think government has done quite a bit also with residential acquisition by people. So yeah. Joya?
Yes, actually, the lady that was talking earlier, I just want to know who you, can you introduce yourself? Sorry, I don't know if you did you? No. She was?
Yeah, I'm Nirupa Raghu. I'm an architect working at Design Forum Limited.
Hi.
Ah, excellent, excellent, good. Thank you
Okay.
for that insight. So you were,
Yeah,
I have a question for you. So this was, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is about the social living plan. Is this something that's a new plan by government?
New social living development, is it?
Yes.
NSLD.
New social.
If I'm correct.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
No,
Yeah,
I was really thinking about, all the consultants and all the SMEs. We have many young architects, engineers, and quantity surveyors. Just looking for jobs, and I don't see why.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. What? Yeah, I was just thinking whether, what we do also at the Green Building Council is that we train professionals on different, building aspects, not just green, but it even could be about project management. It can be about other things. I'm just wondering if you think that there is need for capacity in this sector, especially about social aspects, social resilience. What is your thought on that?
Nirupa.
Nirupa, yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think there is scope for more training. As architects, usually we are trained, let's say, generally on buildings and planning, and maybe some of us may have some specialty in, social housing and so on, but most of us are, when we study, it's a general training on building planning. So maybe some sort of training on how to manage social living with all the, sociological aspects, psychological aspects, economical aspects, and so on would be of value, including, of course, all the green aspects.
Yeah. I've been training.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, it's good.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, one thing in my career, in my early days, I used to be working in South Africa, and there we had a roster program. To answer your question, Mr. Nirupa, is about we have a roster program. So every registered consultant, we're on a roster. So every time government has a project, it doesn't go out to tender or whatever. They have a set price for what it is, and you get your chance. So these are once you do a roster, so the projects, but let's say there's 20 projects. So the first one on the list gets it, and then you come back on the list and just carries on like this. And actually all consultants get to work. And this is how it works. And obviously they are from different sizes, but at least I think it's more like this sort of distributive way of giving work, and rather than, tendering and a lot of time, you know how it works with tenders, etc. But could be quite a nice thing, maybe for some sort of work packages, but doesn't really require too big. But there are, like some say, roster program to be put in, or where people on the roster just gets the work, and then you get your chance. Yes, Joya. Joya, you mind?
Yes, I think. Yes, that's excellent. Actually, this is one way, to have this roster system. It's very, very interesting. I think also, Nirupa, that, like I said about innovation, not just for products and materials and so on, but also for, these new ideas and new building ways and doing consultancy. I think it's important for even consultants to innovate. I'm going to say that, and get trained in different aspects of building back better, because it's it is a changing industry now, especially with this, SDGs and the Paris Agreement that all these countries have signed, that we need to actually think in a different way. Unfortunately, we don't have one of our board members on, Audrey. She's not there, but she's actually a social entrepreneur. Is that what I think that's what she says. Yeah. So she has, worked a lot with social groups and trying to understand what they need. So it's a lot of, collaboration and partnership with different areas of society, actually. And we also do that type of training because we did this recently. Maybe Tony, you can expand on that. We did the practitioners brokers training, which is, relates to how to bring all these people together around a table and actually come up with something that is inclusive, so yeah, definitely there's opportunity there. And I think we'll look into this training for sure at our level, if we can have some kind of training in that area.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. I think we're going to a close. I would like to give the floor to our panelists for a last word. So we start by Reshma.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I will try to summarize this way. Like the budget as is reflects a traditional way of doing things, and much is required in terms of some new ways of a new way of seeing things. The starting point could be looking, for example, as Joya has said, at the Sustainable Development Goals as advanced by the United Nations and signed by many and adopted by many countries. So if we start there, try to see all the different aspects related to the construction industry and extract some of the key things we can ponder on. I think we can try to bring some more to propose in the future. That will be from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Reshma. Thank you. Thank you. We go to Mr. Chandiram. Yeah, you're on mute. If you can unmute. Yeah.
I think obviously we have actually the seeds of the orientation of our recovery has been sown. And obviously, we do need additional legislation. And I think the building regulations are long overdue, I think, to control exactly the direction in which we should be going. And I think, obviously, you can't do everything just after post-COVID. So I think we look forward, actually, to additional legislation, additional regulations, and additional guidelines, so that we can actually orientate all our minds in one direction.
Yeah, thank you. So that's the role of regulation, guidelines, legislation, etc. Yeah, I think there's been quite a few of the work that's ongoing at the moment. I know there's the National Land Development Strategy that's been drafted, and that's going to also come out pretty soon, hopefully. Well, I must say that we've done actually regulation and energy efficiency and energy conservation in building already over 10 years ago, but that's never been enacted or promulgated. So that's a bit yeah, and I think we're trying to push that, but we need this part also. Yeah, Mr. Patel. Final word from you.
Yes, we have spoken about green building, we have spoken about social housing, we have spoken about drains. I would like to stress on drains. It's a talk of the town right now, and I believe doing drains, you need a good master plan and a good designability, sustainability, which would allow the public funds to be used in proper manner. I mean, yes, there are drains happening, going to happen. What I've observed is practically no supervision during the execution. and it's a waste of money, for instance, you know. So the authorities will have to beef up this. I mean, you can't allow public money go wasted. Naturally, the audit will keep on jumping every now and then. It's good to see Nirupa, with whom I've worked with, Mr. Khushiram also I've worked with. Now, on the social housing, it's doable, but designability and the constructability will dictate the doability of the social housing. I mean, you can't have architectural design which is looking really nice and which is not practical. See, so there are lots of elements which needs to be looked into. In terms of green permit, as I said, this, without the support of the authority and the government, nothing is going to happen. Today, you look at Singapore, why Singapore has been successful in development, in adopting green technologies. You look at Scandinavian countries. I mean, today, US President Biden is driving because it's coming from the top, and this is what the future is. I mean, you look at vehicles, most of the European countries have announced that 2030 or 2040, there won't be any fossil cars on the road. They're moving away from that. I mean, Scandinavian countries have moved away from that. So why not us? You know, we should follow the models and not reinvent the models. We should follow the models which are already there, which are being utilized, implemented. And as I said, the technologies are available. I mean, the construction technologies are available. Earlier, Reshma mentioned about different products to be used in construction. We look at that ourselves, but equally the designer should be able to adopt that. Today, you have got probably panels which are manufactured out of waste and sandwich panels, which can replace the masonry blocks, for instance, you know. I mean, there are technologies where you can reduce the use of cement also. So these are the things which we need to look at, and the authorities should encourage that. You mentioned earlier the importation of plywood. I mean, wood, today we are talking of Save the Earth. There are other systems of formworks available. Yes, they're expensive, but then if somebody is investing in an expensive system of form, probably the government should encourage them that will give you some sort of a tax rebate or something like that, so that these systems can be used and can be available to be used. Yes, the initial investment is always high, but I'm sure there must be a way of working out and balancing the situation. You know? These are the times where we have to think out of the box.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Patel. So yeah, better management of projects and also public funds, and also like looking at some fiscal incentives for different technologies, like even just like, for example, you given, which is formwork, and then also think out of the box, but also look at the trends elsewhere, where we're moving towards, and then also take the lessons learned from them and learn from them, because we're already ahead. We can use that because you know, we already try and tested different things there, and the technology also have. Thank you very much. Yes, final word, Joya.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for that. So yeah, first of all, you know, I'd just like to say that I like to congratulate the government on a good balanced budget to bring us back on our feet quickly, targeting the right areas, because right now, yes, the areas that we need to think about is the industry, the SMEs, the tourism, the agriculture sector, because we import a lot of our products. So these are the sectors that they're focusing on, which is wonderful. And yes, there is a lot of opportunity in the social housing and community development where we can go green in small ways, just as Reshma said, you know, putting down few measures. And let's do that. And we should think and do outside of the box. So watch out for our upcoming training programs that we'll focus. We'll also look at these innovative technologies, you know, look at what we can do on our end. And thank you all for your insights. It was excellent, and thank you for your participation.
Thanks, Joya. Yeah, I echo what Joya is saying. I want to thank you, first and foremost, the panelists to agree to join us today, to share your insights and share your experience and your views and perspectives. And I want also to thank everyone who made it today to join us, and obviously anyone who's watching at the moment also, because that's going to be going on to online. And I wish you well, and also I wish the construction industry also well in the future. And let's just keep be optimistic of the future, and just also work together and collaborate for a better Mauritius, and so we can build back better Mauritius. Thanks very much. So I'll close this webinar now, and all the best to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you also to the staff, also at GBCM, who's helped put this together. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go well. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.